right, so for my students, we're reviewing Chapter 12, the air intake systems. And today we're going to go over some of the different configurations and also probably just getting into turbos. And welcome to the class. And so let's see. Now, one of the first things that we got to know is that we're going to explain the purpose and the operation of the diesel air intake systems, and also define the scavenging and supercharging. Name the major air cleaning types and also describe their operation. We're also going to explain the purpose of an air silencer and also describe the two principal types of blowers used in the diesel air systems. They do have a couple of different configurations with those. So this chapter describes air intake, scavenging, supercharging, air cleaners, intake air silencers, blowers, and air intake passages. I thought it also covered turbochargers, but that may be the next chapter. I'm not 100% right now, but we'll figure this out. All right, also, another very important thing, volumetric efficiency, the scavenging efficiency, engine design, valve timing, air intake systems. You know, these are some of the things that are going to be very critical to how an engine or a diesel engine performs and actually makes power. Now, here in the first video, or well, the first, how can I say, drawing here that we're going over, two different types of completely different engines. Here, over here on this right side, this is a two-stroke diesel that has a turbo and also a supercharger right here. Okay, so these are old engines. I'm almost positive we don't use these anymore. Actually, my very first engine build was actually on a Detroit. All right, this type of a supercharger was a 671, and that's where the 671 superchargers, right, came from. It was mounted on the side of the block, just like you see here in this drawing, and the air. Now, it didn't have a turbo, okay, but this picture right here is showing a turbo. So we had the air cleaner going into the intake system, the turbo, and then boosting up some of the, the air, and then also now we have the supercharger boosting even more into this two-stroke diesel. This thing was really, really an awesome engine. It really was. It was just kind of very inefficient. But anyway, on this side over here, we have a typical, maybe in different configurations on most of the diesels, not just exactly like this. But your air cleaner, and then also going into the turbo, and then it comes from the turbo out. Now, as soon as it compresses, we start to go into boost. What happens here, the air temperature goes up. And it's coming through right out of this discharge port into the heat exchanger, or there's another name for this. I'm going to see, maybe make it a question for you guys. All right, what is exactly this is called? So that's going to be one of the questions that I'm going to ask you to do at the end of this chapter. Also, it's going into this heat exchanger. I'm going to call it that. You guys tell me what it is. Going through here, this other inlet tube, and then into the intake system, or the intake manifold. A lot of different configurations to the intake manifold. And of course, this is a very simplified picture, because through all this in the diesels and in today's systems, there's all the mass airflow sensors all located in this area, and some very, very sophisticated electronics that also go along that they're not showing in this picture. So this is the very basic picture, a drawing that you guys are looking at. So now let's take a look at, let's talk a little bit about blowers. Blowers increase naturally aspirated intake. Right? It fills the cylinder with fresh air and also clears the combustion gases. Now that second part right here where it says clear the combustion process is probably talking about the two-stroke diesel that we saw in the other slide just a little bit ago. And also, let's take a look at this. So here we go. Here's the direct or port direct scavenging. Again, these are going to be things that we're going to see in this two-stroke diesel world, which no longer is in use. This is another one here, which another examples, and then this one here. This is sort of like the one that I actually worked on, where they had these openings on the side of the cylinder, or the sleeve, and basically also when you overhauled these engines, you would sleeve them and put the pistons in, and that was actually the very first motor, the diesel engine I ever overhauled with a 671, and that was actually a lot of fun. Very simple in design, all mechanical. but in today's world, they no longer exist due to the fact that they're just very inefficient. We have much more efficient and also the emissions. So supercharging increases air available for combustion, increases the combustion efficiency. The increases combustion efficiency. So here's another question that I'm going to ask you guys to answer as part of your lecture and part of your activities today is, why does a supercharger increase combustion efficiency? So I want to know the answer to that. Here's also, requires different valve timing. All right, so requires different valve timing. But what I want to know is, increases combustion efficiency. Why does a supercharging increase combustion efficiency? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the air cleaners. One of the most important parts of this whole system and setup is actually to remove the airborne contaminants, dust and dirt, moisture, soot, mainly the air filters, okay, the light-duty trucks, medium trucks, heavy-duty trucks. It becomes very important because there's also sensors, mass airflow sensors, and things like that that are measuring the volume of air coming through, the density of the air, temperature, and all these things lead to making sure that the emissions that are coming out of the tailpipe are optimum, and also, maintaining the emission standards. So the air cleaners are a very, very vital and very important role in making sure that we're putting in clean air. We don't want to sit there and have all this stuff mix in there with it, because the little dirt particles, sand, actually will scratch the cylinder wall. And if it continues, we just continue to allow dirt, and we're running an engine without a filter, it will damage the cylinder and then start to lose compression. So it's something that you definitely do not want to do. And these engines are designed to run millions of miles for a long time, many, many hours. You want it to last a long time. So we got to make sure that we maintain the air filters. So here are some of the designs that we have, but these are old. These are old stacks. And the snorkels, that you guys see in some of these old trucks. And these are some old pictures. We have far more advanced and more sophisticated air cleaners than you see in these pictures here. Okay, they're going to have to update it. Now here we go. Here's what we're talking about. Looks like the truck that we have also at the school. So this is under the hood. There's the system right here. Here's the air cleaner. Okay, and you see it going into the turbo. And then here's the output of the turbo. The boost side going into the intercooler. Right, that's in front of the radiator assembly. And there's also some other types. So here is a pre-cleaners, which removes larger amount of dirt and particles. Okay, so these are pre-cleaners, reduce the load on the main air cleaner. So these pre-screeners and pre-cleaners, like you see right here in this section, they're designed basically to take out large particles, right? And there are some large particles. Believe me when I tell you that when these trucks are going down the road, there's all kind of debris flying around in the air, and the volume of air that they're pulling inside these engines, pull in a lot of these particles. So this is like the pre-screens, pre-cleaners to put less stress, or less stress on the main air cleaners and things like that. And so they do have, the majority of them do have pre-cleaners. Here's one right here with the ram inlet hood, and it's just facing the other way. A lot of the times you guys will not see them straight up, not unless they have some kind of a cap, all right, that's flapping around when you guys are seeing them. Some of these old trucks with two stacks coming up and have these little flapper valves in the top. So when the engine is off, they shut off and will not allow like any kind of rain or anything to go into the pipes to keep them from rusting and whatnot. So here's a little snorkel type with a ram air effect, right, to help the air go in there a little bit easier. And there's a certain rules, 10 inches, minimum clearance. You definitely don't want them too high, because remember that these trucks are sitting up pretty high already. You don't want to hit anything. Okay. Here is a inline moisture skimmer. So one of the things that we have, especially like in Florida, there's a lot of moisture in here. And when these, during hot, cold temperature changes, condensation forms. And some of these have an evacuator or the valve tube right here that you guys see, just to take out the moisture if there's any kind of a buildup. Some of these automatically will release it. Some you may have to purge them yourselves. So it all depends, but they're just designed there to release moisture. Okay, you don't want the moisture hanging out and eventually will rust, right, some of these pipes or whatever the case may be. And you just don't want that, so they do have some of these vacuators, valve tubes, things like this in the system that you may have to be aware of and may have to service them. So here we also have inline moisture separators, okay, dirt and moisture separators, and it does exactly what it is that you're seeing. So they try to make the air, and you see this design here, this is circulating air, okay, they're running them through these cleaners, and they're trying to separate the moistures so the dirt and moisture will come out, at the point of the drain or the valve or wherever it's how they designed it. It all depends on the vehicle. So other separation methods is impegmented separation. Water contacts many surfaces. Droplets run into the collection chamber, and then the water drains when the weight overcomes the atmospheric pressure. The inertial separators. There's just quite a few, but it is one of the key, and it's very important that we maintain, which you probably are going to get a schedule where you guys are going to have to change the air cleaners. They also have oil bath cleaner. Now this is a very interesting, way of doing it. It's a light-duty, heavy-duty trucks, marine oil bath air cleaners. Here, what we have is oil sitting in the bottom, and the air is pulled. If we follow this, here's the air being pulled. Air inlet over the top. This is just the cover to keep the rain from coming in and stuff like that. And it comes in here through this center tube, and look what happens. You got these baffles in this oil cup. There's actually a special oil in here. And so the air has to travel. And they travel like in these little bubbles. If you've ever seen them, these little bubbles. And they just come up. Here's the main element, and then it goes to the main filter element, and then it goes into the air system or the intake. A very efficient way of doing it. This, again, will have certain time intervals that you're supposed to change them. And so here's my next question. At what time? How much, when do we have to change? So here's question number 3. I think we're up to question number 3. Is when are we supposed to service? And what kind of service procedures are for these oil bath cleaners? So that is what I want to know. What is the kind of services that actually take place? When should we do them? Do they have mileage interval? Do they have time interval? That's what I want to know. That is the third question that I'm asking you guys to answer. And let's see here. Here we have oil bath airflow. So here we're looking at it again. And they have these baffles so it doesn't suck the oil up. And that's what you're seeing here. And how these baffles are constructed. Oil cup, oil drains, and things of this nature.